In the heart of ancient Rome, the year was 44 BCE. The city was a bustling hub of politics, power, and intrigue. Julius Caesar, the great military general and statesman, had recently been declared dictator perpetuo, or dictator for life. His rise to power had been meteoric, and his reforms had won him both admirers and enemies. The Senate, once the most powerful body in the Roman Republic, now found itself overshadowed by Caesar's authority. Among the senators, a conspiracy began to brew. The conspirators, fearing that Caesar's power threatened the very foundation of the Republic, decided that he must be stopped. Leading this group were Gaius Cassius Longinus and Marcus Junius Brutus, the latter of whom had a complex relationship with Caesar, often described as a mix of admiration and betrayal. Brutus was a respected senator and a Stoic philosopher, known for his moral integrity and dedication to Rome. His internal turmoil began when he was approached by Cassius and other conspirators who feared Caesar's growing power and potential to become a tyrant. Brutus was torn between his affection for Caesar and his belief that Caesar's ambition threatened the Republic's democratic ideals. Several key incidents heightened the tension. In December 45 BCE or early 44 BCE, the Senate decided to present Caesar with numerous honors. When they arrived at the temple of Venus Genetrix to formally present these honors, Caesar did not stand to greet them, which was seen as a significant breach of etiquette and a sign of disrespect. In January 44 BCE, a diadem, a symbol of kingship, was found on the statue of Caesar in the Roman Forum. The tribunes Gaius Appidius Marullus and Lucius Caesius Flavus ordered its removal, suspecting it was a ploy to test public reaction to Caesar becoming king. Caesar's reaction to this incident, including his removal of the tribunes from office, further alienated him from the Senate and the people. On February 15, 44 BCE, during the festival of Lupercalia, Mark Antony attempted to crown Caesar with a diadem in front of a crowd. Caesar refused the crown, but the incident fueled rumors that he aspired to be king, increasing the conspirators' fears. In early 44 BCE, Caesar was appointed dictator perpetuo, dictator for life. This unprecedented concentration of power alarmed many senators who feared that Caesar intended to dismantle the Republic and establish a monarchy. The conspiracy to assassinate Caesar began in earnest in February 44 BCE. Cassius Longinus and Marcus Junius Brutus, among others, started recruiting senators who shared their concerns about Caesar's growing power. They believed that Caesar's assassination was necessary to save the Republic. Amidst these tensions, Caesar was also planning a grand military campaign against the Parthian Empire. Following his victory in the civil war against Pompey and his followers, Caesar's authority was uncontested in the Roman Republic. His next plan was to launch an invasion of the Parthian Empire, the other great power of the period, which had, like the Republic, vastly expanded over the previous 2 centuries. Caesar sought to avenge the disaster of Carrhae in 53 BCE, when the Parthians soundly defeated an invading army led by Crassus. The campaign was to start with the pacification of Dacia, followed by an invasion of the Parthian Empire. Caesar had begun practical preparations for the campaign sometime before late 45 BCE. By 44 BCE, he had begun a mass mobilization, gathering 16 legions, about 60,000 men, and 10,000 cavalry for the invasion. Caesar intended to leave Rome to start the campaign on March 18. However, 3 days prior to his departure, he was assassinated. As the Ides of March approached, the conspirators finalized their plans. They chose the Senate House, the Theatre of Pompey, as the stage for their dramatic act. The date was set, March 15th. On the morning of the Ides of March, Caesar's wife, Calpurnia, was troubled by ominous dreams and begged him not to go to the Senate. Despite her pleas and the warnings of a soothsayer who had famously told him to beware the Ides of March, Caesar dismissed the concerns. He believed that his destiny was beyond the reach of mere mortals. As Caesar entered the Senate House, he was surrounded by the conspirators. They pretended to petition him, drawing him into a vulnerable position. Suddenly, the attack began. Casca was the first to strike, stabbing Caesar in the neck. Shocked and disoriented, Caesar tried to defend himself, but the conspirators closed in, each delivering a blow. According to historical accounts, Caesar fought back initially, but when he saw Brutus among the attackers, he is said to have uttered the famous words, "A2, Brute." With these words, he resigned himself to his fate, covering his head with his toga as he fell at the base of Pompey's statue, a poignant symbol of the end of his reign. Brutus's internal conflict was profound. He grappled with the idea of assassinating Caesar, whom he loved and respected, for the greater good of Rome. This moral dilemma is encapsulated in his thoughts. It must be by his death, and for my part, I know no personal cause to spurn at him, but for the general. Brutus convinced himself that Caesar's death was necessary to prevent tyranny, even though he had no personal grievances against him. Despite his noble intentions, Brutus's actions resulted in chaos and civil war, highlighting the tragic nature of his character. His story is a poignant reminder of the complexities of loyalty, honor, and the unintended consequences of even the most well-intentioned actions. The immediate aftermath of Caesar's assassination was marked by chaos and political instability. The conspirators, including Brutus and Cassius, expected to be hailed as liberators, but instead, they faced backlash from the Roman populace and Caesar's loyalists. The conspirators were forced to flee Rome as Mark Antony, Caesar's ally, quickly seized control of the situation. Mark Antony emerged as a key figure in the power struggle following Caesar's death. He delivered a powerful funeral oration that swayed public opinion against the conspirators. Antony's actions and rhetoric incited the masses, leading to riots and the burning of the conspirators' homes. Caesar's will named his grandnephew, Octavian, later Augustus, as his heir. Octavian, only 18 at the time, quickly returned to Rome from Greece and began to assert his claim. Despite his youth, Octavian proved to be a shrewd and ambitious leader, gathering support from Caesar's veterans and other key figures. To consolidate power and avenge Caesar's death, Octavian, Mark Antony, and Lepidus formed the Second Triumvirate in 43 BCE. This alliance allowed him to defeat the forces of Brutus and Cassius at the Battle of Philippi in 42 BCE. Both Brutus and Cassius committed suicide following their defeat. The Second Triumvirate initiated a brutal campaign of proscriptions, targeting their political enemies and consolidating their power through violence and intimidation. This period saw the execution of many senators and prominent Romans, including the orator Cicero. The power struggles and civil wars that followed Caesar's assassination ultimately led to the end of the Roman Republic. Octavian and Antony eventually turned against each other, culminating in the decisive Battle of Actium in 31 BCE, where Octavian defeated Antony and Cleopatra. Antony and Cleopatra's subsequent suicides left Octavian as the unchallenged ruler of Rome. Octavian, now known as Augustus, established the Roman Empire, marking the transition from the Roman Republic to the imperial system. Different historians have provided varying accounts of Caesar's assassination, adding layers of complexity to the narrative. According to Suetonius, Caesar's murder was preceded by numerous omens and warnings. He describes how Caesar ignored these signs, including a soothsayer's warning and his wife Calpurnia's dreams. Suetonius also notes that Caesar was attacked by a large group of conspirators, receiving 23 stab wounds, and that he did not utter any words during the attack, contrary to the famous A2, Brute. Appian's account suggests that Caesar fought back fiercely against his attackers, turning on them like a wild animal before succumbing to his wounds. This portrayal contrasts with the more passive depiction of Caesar's final moments in other accounts. Plutarch provides a detailed account of the conspiracy and assassination, emphasizing Brutus's internal conflict and the moral and philosophical justifications for the assassination. He also highlights the role of Decimus Brutus in persuading Caesar to attend the Senate meeting despite the warnings. Cassius Dio's account includes the political motivations behind the assassination and the immediate aftermath, noting the chaos and public reaction following Caesar's death. He also mentions the various omens and portents that were said to have foretold the assassination. These differing perspectives from historians like Suetonius, Appian, Plutarch, and Cassius Dio provide a richer, more nuanced understanding of the events surrounding Caesar's assassination, illustrating the complexity of historical narratives and the varied interpretations of key events. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of legendary leaders.